Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Flowering into 5D. I have my first guest, which I'm super duper excited about. His name is Gopi, and I'll just tell you a little bit about him before we get started. So, Gopi helps spiritually minded individuals achieve clarity, overcome negative thought patterns and habits through his unique integration of hypnotherapy and palmistry. During his uh, time as a former monk, during his former life as a monk, I should say, he delved into the timeless wisdom of astrology, palmistry, and the ancient knowledge of the mind and consciousness, gaining deep insights into human psychology. He combines these powerful teachings with modern, effective tools. As a certified practitioner in applied hypnotherapy, he's also a trauma-informed coach. And along with the knowledge he gained through his diploma in psychology and counseling. Wow, that's awesome. I love all your like offerings that you've put all together. Um, okay, so first off, because I'm just nosy and I want to know, how did you become a monk? Like, I'm so curious. Tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah, I left high school I finished high school when I was 18 in Germany. And then I thought, I don't really just want to work and study and spend my whole life just doing the normal thing like everyone else did. And I thought, I want to go to Australia and see whether there's something there that I can do. Mm. Yeah, so for some reason I was just thinking I want to go to the other part of the world, shift everything. And then, and for some reason in my back of my mind, I was thinking I'm probably not gonna come back. I'm just gonna go there and then something will happen. And then I tried everything. I had this picture in my mind. I'm gonna enjoy Australia, see all the amazing sights and do so many things and do the things that backpackers do. A lot of partying and all that stuff. And then everything kind of turned out different, and nothing really was as nice as I thought it would be, and nothing was as there's many funny stories to it, but let's keep it short. So nothing I had in mind actually worked out. Nothing, all the dreams or the fantasies that I had built up in my mind didn't work out, and I was very frustrated very quickly. Maybe after a couple of months, I was questioning my whole quest of what I'm doing there, and actually, exactly at that moment, kind of after I tried everything that I wanted to try and nothing really hit the spot, then yeah, I met these amazing monks in Melbourne, in Australia, and went to like a beautiful mantra meditation, kirtan, maybe some of you are familiar. And yeah, that actually gave me so much more fulfillment and happiness than anything I tried before. Like whatever I did, all the traveling and seeing everything and doing the partying, the little simple night in like a um yeah little place was so much better than everything. And then from there I started to read spiritual books, and I first time in my life I found out there's actually more to our life than just our temporary body and mind, and I thought that was super exciting. Yeah, I found out about reincarnation and life after death and karma and all these cool things. And yeah, then shortly after, I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. I want to explore more. And then that led to life, yeah, monastic life for quite a few years. Yeah, it's kind of short version.
So cool. And was that in Australia or where were you a monk? I don't know if that's the
Yeah,
right like.
I started in Melbourne, and then I went to New Zealand because I needed another visa. But then in New Zealand, I kind of did it for in Auckland, most of the time. It's like North New Zealand.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. That's so cool. So now you've you feel called to help people through like working through problems of the past and addictions and whatnot. Like what called you to this work specifically? I'm curious.
Yeah. Mm, yeah, I guess my whole life, I kind of tried to bury all my emotions and never talked about my problems. And I'm not sure whether it's a German thing, but Germans are also not very popular about talking about their feelings. And so I kind of bottled up or buried all my feelings and emotions, never talked about it. And then when I was about 3 years into the monastery, and then after a lot of meditation and a lot of inner work, like all these things that I never dealt with in my life, they came up. And yeah, like for like a whole year, I was like crying every day, and I just had this, was like suicidal, was like super depressed, and all these emotions that I never dealt with come up. And I, yeah, could hardly sleep. I like so much skin problem and all kinds of painful stuff. Then I had problems with relationships and the with the other monks there, and there's like everything coming together. And a friend of mine, she also does like hypnotherapy, and she helped me out of this kind of state and clean up all this stuff that I was dealing with subconsciously. And yeah, then after a while, I kind of graduated from the monastery, and yeah, I left this. I dealt with myself and all these problems. Of course, there's still always stuff, more and more things to go, but yeah, I thought since I went through so many things myself, and yeah, really like helping people. And I know how harmful and hard it can be to have these negative emotions and all these buried traumas and past experiences. So yeah, I'm hoping that I was hoping that I can help people in the same way that I was helped back then. Does that
That's
make sense?
amazing. Yeah, of course. It totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. You know, I really feel that, when we have all of this baggage in this, 3D reality, or I like to call it, but, this life, um, it's so hard to move past that, like it's hard to like ascend into your spiritual self or into, 5D as um, I like to call it, or just love, really, just universal love. It's when you have all of this stuff that you're holding on to, it's just so hard. And it's a lot of people don't know how to do the work. So I see that, the way that you're approaching it is so valuable because, like hypnotherapy really, from my experience anyway, seems to get deeper than anybody can consciously.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It's like we can, yeah, actually, that's a really good point because we all, like, I guess most of those who are listening as well, we want to like approach, like, come closer to the spiritual experience and spiritual reality. But then these things that can really hold us back. Like, we may just be caught up in so much stress and trauma and fear that even thinking about that's very hard. And then actually, yeah, instead of just talking it over, which often doesn't help, then actually fixing it and going to the root of our negative patterns, for example, then yes, really, really helpful. Yeah,
Well,
speaking from my own experience.
I completely agree. And, I think sometimes people just are trapped in their own mind and they like, if you're like, well, let's talk about it. They're like, well, we'll talk about what? They don't even know
Hmm.
where to go with it. And I think, the subconscious mind holds so much trauma and, patterning or, brainwashing, however you want to call it, that I really think, hypnotherapy is super powerful, for this. And just to pivot for a second, I understand as well that you are working with palmistry. Like how do you use palmistry and also numerology to like help people? Like I'm very new to palmistry, but I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I know you do human design, so it's kind of all these things are kind of similar in a way. And they like I did one palm reading with one person who does also um, human design, and that was like exactly matching, like actually all the things that I was telling her. She was, oh, that's like my human design chart. So yeah, on the hand, it's quite fascinating. I have you can see so many things that like about your life, and when it's not as detailed as astrology can be. Like if you find a really good astrologer, which is not easy these days. I know a really good person if
Mhm.
anyone wants, but um, on the hand, it's kind of there. Like you can't uh, wash it away. Like date of birth and time and everything can be a little tricky, but actually, hand is like okay, it's all here, and you can actually see a lot of things just like you can see with human design, just like you understand more about the machine that we're driving. Just like if you have a car, it's
Mhm.
kind of good to know whether it's a Toyota or a Ferrari. Otherwise, you may get Toyota is really reliable, but maybe not as fast. So if you expect the Toyota to be like drive 300, you may get upset. But if you focus on the strengths of the Toyota, then you're actually happy. So in the same way, like palmistry, numerology can actually understand more about the strengths and the areas that naturally we're not so good at, and maybe also what time in our life will be more suitable to capitalize in different areas of our life. For example, some areas, like some parts of our life, if you want to grow business, for example, it may be very difficult. Like it's just hard. Everything is just hard. And I'm sure everyone had experiences like that. Things are just tough and there's one negative thing after the other. So then in that time, it's better just to keep cool and just focus on like spiritual practices and work on ourselves. But then other times you can really fully get into it and then can be really successful. Yeah, so those are some things. Does that does that resonate or does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And like you said, it sounds similar to human design in that you're basically giving some insight into what direction to go. Like, where are we right now in our lives? You know, is it a good idea to move this way or that way? Like you said, like, am I a Toyota? Am I a Ferrari? Things like this. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's like getting like the roadmap, right? Really, that's kind of how some people describe human design or like the blueprint for your life or for whatever part of your life that you're looking at. So
Mm.
that's super cool. I've always like thought palm reading is super interesting. I have to tell a little funny story. I was in India and this random you've been to India before?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so you already know. So this random person just grabbed my hand and was like, "Oh, I'm giving you a palm reading." I'm like, "Oh, what?" Okay. Sounds good. And it was one of those things where he told me some information and then was like, "Cool, how about some money?" And I was like, "How about no?" Like, you didn't ask my permission. You just started reading me. And he told me that I was gonna have twin boys, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, whoa, I was not ready for that information. And to be honest with you, I was like kind of hoping it was true because, I always had the idea that having twins would be so awesome. And then, I mean, maybe he's right still, but for now he's wrong because I have only one daughter. But I'll just never forget that experience because it was so like profound and so interesting. And I was like, whoa, that's the only thing I can remember from the reading though, because it's just a lot going on. I mean, it was India, right? So yeah.
India
Ah,
is a special place.
it really is. It really is. What's your favorite place in India?
I did go to one place called Mayapur. It
Okay.
is in West Bengal, which is kind of East India. It's close to Calcutta. And yeah, such a wonderful place. It's a very sacred place. There's lots of kirtan going on, like mantra, music, meditation. It's like the birthplace of. Do you know kirtan, Sam? You
Yeah,
have heard of this?
definitely.
Yeah. Yes, the birthplace of kirtan, this music, mantra, meditation. And this is where I actually met my palm reading teacher. Uh, he's done it like over 40 years or something. He's he's really cool. But yeah, that's my favorite place. Hopefully I can go back soon. I would
Yeah,
recommend anyone to go.
definitely. Do you have any like set plans like, oh, I'm planning to go at this time, or are you just like hopefully soon?
Yeah, ideally want to go next February.
Okay, nice.
So once a year is kind of good. Because you know in the whether we know or not, we like in the society we live in, we get all these contaminations and all the as you know, yeah. We everything rubs off on us. So actually it's good to go to like a holy sacred place to wash off all these contaminations and then we can kind of come back in a pure with pure consciousness.
Hmm.
You can actually
Now,
see that. Sorry, yeah.
oh no, please go ahead.
You can actually like when I came back last time, it's amazing. Like you can actually really notice how everything is really impure in the Western countries. Like there's so much going on. People have impure thoughts and impure motivations, and they come from a place like Mayapur, for example, where everyone is like on their spiritual journey and dedicated in that way, and they're all have. I mean, we're not perfect, but at least they're all trying to be perfect.
Hmm.
And then coming back, you can really it's really intense. Actually, it's noticing that difference. Yeah,
Hmm. I've never been there, but I totally know what you mean. Um, I currently live in Cambodia, and I don't want to say I keep to myself because I'm fairly social, but I'm not exactly in the community. Um, and when I go back to Canada, my home country, it really feels like bizarro world, if that makes sense. I mean, I feel like maybe I've just grown accustomed to Asia and I'm used to more of like a slow pace of life, but just yeah, like the impurity and it's not like coming from a place of judgment like, oh, they're so impure. Like it's just it really shows how there are so many veils of illusion. Just even having a conversation between someone, it doesn't even feel like you're reaching them because they're just in their zone, if that makes any sense.
definitely. Yeah, it's interesting that you also have that. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I would have thought that you would have had that experience. Mm. Yeah, it's very. Even first time when I came back, even looking at persons' faces, I was like, oh, there's like, you can actually notice, oh, this is not that they're bad people, but they're just like, they're like, is it like a disease? Um, like a kind of negative covering that everyone is holding.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I mean, I don't really know the right terminology for it exactly. I mean, everybody's going to have their own words or ways to describe it, but I really feel like I hate to say demons or demonic, but it's like just this this vibration around a lot of people, not everyone obviously, but I feel like especially people who are in the throes of addiction. And I mean, I've definitely been there myself. So again, not coming with judgment, but just it's like you can almost see the thing on their back that's like keeping them down, you know? And it's really hard to not to speak with them. It's not like, again, I'm not coming from a place of judgment, like, oh, I can't even speak to those people. It's
Mm,
not that. It's just like, it's really hard to relate to them, even
mm,
though I have been there before, or even like have a conversation where it feels balanced because it just feels like they're not there. You know
mm,
what I mean?
definitely. Yeah, it's very. I had that first time I think with my friends and maybe my family as well. It's like I mean I had that with people in general, but then it becomes even more obvious when you're like with your family and when you're with your friends and like what happened to you? Like that they may also think that about you, you know, like you're like you're quite different, you know. Because they're kind of the same, but then you change so much and then it's quite yeah, quite interesting. But that's also where I really like to actually reach out and help people. Big part of the monastery life was actually to share like spiritual knowledge and like meditation and help people get a bigger understanding of reality and teaching, which then also helps oneself. And it's a really good activity actually to mm, like if you share that kind of spiritual knowledge to people who don't want to, then it's very purifying effect. You become very humble and tolerant and patient because otherwise you can't go on because no one's interested practically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, I feel, just to be from an outsider's perspective. I often feel like an outsider. And I'm okay with that, you know. But I'm always happy, you know, for the internet and just being able to connect, you know, with people like yourself or other people that, you know, are like-minded in so many ways and just being able to connect and realize that, you know what, like I'm not an outsider and I'm not alone.
Mm,
I I really value the internet for that.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you use it in the right way, it's so powerful. And if you use it in the wrong way, then it's like it's also super powerful but in a negative way.
Definitely, definitely. So I'm just curious, like, what kind of advice do you have for somebody who is maybe new to spirituality or new to kind of taking a look at their own stuff? And yeah, what's your advice for that person?
Yeah, I guess one thing, because it can be quite scary to look at like, I mean, what's like deeply inside our hearts, and oftentimes we just do it if we really can't cope anymore. Like this what happened to me. Like, this is like everything was so horrible, and even like you mentioned before, like sometimes when we just talk about, we don't even know where to start. This is actually very interesting. Like back then, I had like no idea where all this is coming from. I was like just suddenly, I was just like feeling horrible all of the time, and and then one of like my friend that I mentioned who helped me. Like first time we talked together, she asked me how are you, and I was just crying for like 10 minutes. I couldn't even say anything. Um, so yeah, it can be definitely a little challenging and tricky to mm, go there and yeah, look at maybe what we need to work on. Mm, but it's very rewarding. We can either always ignore things that we don't want to deal with and suffer the consequences in some way or another, or we can actually deal with things and then yeah, get free from them. And actually, yeah, the result we get is like it's amazing. Mm. Like there's one saying, there's a few verses in a really amazing book called the Bhagavad Gita. It's an ancient book from the East, you know that. Um, it's like there's three kind of modes of nature, and that's kind of how they're described. There's a mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance, which are influencing everyone in this world. And mode of ignorance kind of means a person who's influenced by an energy that is kind of suffering from beginning to end. Like, some people, for example, they're sleeping the half day or they're just constantly on drugs. They're just like in a really dark place all the time, really dark consciousness. And there's just nothing, no light in their life. Then there's a mode of passion, which is nectar in the beginning and poison in the end. So it looks nice at the start, but then in the end, it's like suffering.
Mhm.
For example, like drugs or alcohol or drinking. So, oh, it's fun, but then like next day you suffer. And
Mhm.
then what to speak if you continuously do it, you're just like putting poison in your body. Or like eat negative food, like you eat something like a big cake and then they're kind of nice, but then like few minutes later you're like, oh no, why did I do it? And then there's the mode of goodness, which means it's poison in the beginning, or it seems like poison in the beginning, but it's nectar in the end. So where we actually do the things that seem uncomfortable, but then the result of it will be it's like nectar. It's so positive. So if we take those steps, and especially then if we also go into spirituality, then yeah, and take on those some disciplines at least that will help us further get further along the path. We can reap yeah much greater benefits than any little like instant gratification we could achieve from other things. Mm. I'm the start. I've just been doing it for a few years, but even the experience that I've had uh, has been gifted to me. It's so much better than I'm sure you can agree. It's like so much better than any little temporary fleeting gratification that we can get through some material kind of sense gratification. So it's really worth it. Like if we just make that step, and this can be little by little. Um, can start somewhere, and then it will reap the most amazing results.
I totally agree. I think that, you know, for me, it's the feeling of not feeling out of control. It's the feeling of being supported in my spiritual journey. I know that, you know, my alignment is a work in progress. I'm never going to be, I mean, maybe one day I'll be perfect, but I mean, life is work to get there, and just being okay with not being perfect, but also continuously working towards that. And just just being okay with not being in control all the time. I think that that's super powerful because like I feel like in Western cultures like we have to be in control. We need to know what we're doing and everything. And I'm not saying like don't plan anything ever, but also just be okay with the idea that maybe you don't know everything. You know, letting go of your ego a little bit, not necessarily being like, well, I'm the best at this, or like I know better than you, or let me give you this advice, and just letting people where they're at, but also just realizing for yourself that you won't always have the answers and just releasing that
Mm,
and allowing the flow and just following your bliss and the right things will happen at the right time.
mm. I love that. It's really amazing. I'm actually so grateful, like in this, yeah, like you were saying, over the internet, you can connect to so many wonderful people. And yeah, I'm really glad that we actually connected, Sam, and he
Yeah.
can be a really like such a wholesome being. And it's such a wonderful vision about things. And I really like that point about the control that, yeah, we're not in control, and it's okay not to be like no one's perfect. But we can strive towards it, but at the same time actually having that vision, okay, I'm gonna make mistakes and it's okay.
It's the
Yeah,
easiest
really.
thing you can do. The hardest thing, the easiest thing you can do is to just release control. You're doing your best.
Mm,
It's one thing. You're doing your best with the tools that you have available to you. That's always like my go-to for forgiveness for anybody. I mean, like, I could go down a rabbit hole of like, well, this person did this to me and how could they? And this person messed up my life or, whatever. But at the end of the day, everybody's doing the best they can with the tools they have available to them, even if it doesn't seem that way from the outside. And I really think that that's been such a powerful shift for me to see things that way because what's the point of holding on to resentment or anger or frustration? Everybody's on their own journey, and most of the time it has nothing to do with me, you know?
mm, mm, totally. Yeah. Is that we can get so caught up in, oh, what's this person thinking? And is it my fault or what's happening? And then actually it's just their stuff, and most of the time we don't have anything to do with it. So if
Exactly.
we can actually release that, that's like such a big, yeah, such a huge shift. I'm working on that at the moment, so it's a good reminder for me.
Perfect. Well, hey, on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. I guess my chicken is the timer because my chicken is squawking and balking in the back. Sorry about that.
Actually, I can't hear, but yeah, it must be a sign.
Oh, good. I'm glad you can't because sometimes she is really like, "Burp, burp." Anyways, I don't need to the chicken right now. All right. So, I just want to direct the people listening. If you want to learn more about like what Gopi does and how he can help you, or just integrate some of this amazing information that you have for people to share with people, you can follow him on Instagram. It's Gopis underscore synergy. I'll just spell that out. It's GOPIS underscore SYNERGY. So before we go, do you have anything else that you would like to say?
Yeah, maybe just on that note, for yeah, you can follow me on Instagram if you like, and I have like a free, like you and you have a free community that Sam is also in, and
Yeah.
where we have like lots of cool free resources, even stuff on palmistry, and I can just send you that via Instagram if you like.
I absolutely
Hopefully.
love the community. There's so much amazing content in there. And yeah, like I just absolutely love it. So I also personally recommend that you get in that group or get in that community as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you, Sam. That was really wonderful to be here. It's actually amazing. Like we just met 2 weeks ago randomly on Facebook.
Nothing's random, right?
And
Everything
yeah,
for a reason. So
yeah,
absolute
very
pleasure. I want to say it's a pleasure to reconnect with you because I feel like I've met you before, like other time, other life. So nice to chat with you again.
probably yeah, I feel a very special connection. Very grateful for that. Thank you, Sam. And yeah, hopefully I
Hey,
can get to connect with some of you listeners as well.
yay. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll talk again soon.
Awesome.